Good afternoon. And everybody awake? Energized? Ready to go? Because this is the special treat we talked about this morning. And I don't know about you all, but this is one of my favorite things to do is work on empowering our young people and creating safe communities for them. And this morning, Tony D talked about authenticity. So I get to introduce somebody who there's no question about her authenticity on these issues. So we are going to have a conversation this afternoon with Valerie Jarrett, who is the President's Senior Advisor, and she has many, many, many titles. She chairs the Council on Women and Girls. She's over the Office of Public Engagement. She's over the governmental affairs for the White House. But more importantly, she cares about you. She cares about your communities. She cares about making sure that our young people have access to opportunities to succeed and excel in life. And I can tell you firsthand, because I've known her for years, she's one of my best friends, but that comes with accountability. And she talks to me all the time about, what are you doing on these issues? We just met with the young folks a few minutes ago, and she was making sure that I was taking notes. So I want to make sure you give me a big round of applause for Ms. Valerie Jarrett from the White House. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Look at everybody. What a crowd. Thank you for that introduction. You're going to do this thing? Yep. And so she's going to have a treat because she's going to get to talk to two of our stars that you heard from yesterday. First, I want to welcome back up Ms. Kelsey Johnson, who is chair of the Baltimore City Youth Commission. And Mr. Wanya Smith, a student at Tennessee State University, but who is much more than that. So enjoy the conversation.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us again. If you have not heard, my name is Kelsey Johnson, and I'm from Baltimore City. I'm the chair of the Baltimore City Youth Commission, and thank you for having me here. It's truly an honor. Just a little bit about what I've shared just yesterday. I grew up in a single-parent household, and then just of some experiences of growing up. I was raped in high school, so just a little bit about me and just my transition of growing and healing. It's a lot that you can learn and continue to grow as you continue to move on. So let's get right into the questions. So you've done a lot of work with young women and men who have gotten caught up in the criminal justice system at a young age. What are some of the common experiences they've gone through, and what are some successful models you've seen that divert young people from the system?
Well, thank you very much. That's a good question to start on. And I had a chance to talk to Kelsey a little bit backstage, as well as my conversation with Wanya. And I think what you both do is you provide role models for young people. And my best analysis, having traveled the country far and wide, is to conclude that you cannot be what you cannot see. And when young people have an opportunity to see somebody who looks like them, who comes from a similar background, who has life experiences that give them the hope that they too can have the opportunity to be whatever they want to be. And I often say, Kelsey, that talent in our country is ubiquitous, but opportunity is not. And so what our young people need is that opportunity. And I have been to, for example, Carol and I visited a girls' detention center in Washington, D.C., and we met with 12, 13, 14-year-old girls who were being held pending trial, and they had been deemed too dangerous to go back to their homes while they were waiting trial. And I'll tell you, after having spent an hour and a half with them, what I concluded is that they mostly needed a hug. They mostly needed somebody to love them, someone to believe in them, someone to invest in them, someone to help them aspire to reach their dreams, and not somebody who was helping extinguish their dreams. I'll now give you another example. I was out in Compton. I remember the date like it was yesterday, September 2nd of last year, and I visited a series I visited a courtroom, I visited a detention center, and then I visited a program that helps young people get jobs after they've been incarcerated. And the courtroom was particularly interesting because all of the young girls who were coming before this judge, and they've been accused of a whole range of crimes, you name it. The one thing they had in common is that they were all victims of commercial sexual exploitation. And so what the judge figured out is, rather than having a trial for whatever crime they may have committed, why don't I try to figure out how to help repair their lives so that they can divert from the juvenile and then adult criminal system and get a life that's fulfilling. And so she helped them with social workers and psychologists and counselors and all kinds of therapy, because many of them had been abused from the time they were, toddlers, and had run away from home, and then, as I said, two or 3 days on the streets of Compton, and a pimp comes along and picks you up, and so circumstances happen. And so what I would say is that all young people aspire to the expectations that people who love them set for them. That's all young people aspire to the expectations that adults who love them set for them. And so our challenge is to make sure that those expectations are unlimited, and that we give them that safety net of support to help them meet those expectations, and that when they stumble and fall, and everybody stumbles and falls. I mean, let's be honest with one another. The difference is that some kids, when they stumble and fall, have no one to pick them up. And so when they do stumble and fall, let's pick them up and help them get back on track again.
All right, before I start my question, I'm just going to do what Kelsey did, just tell you a little about myself.
Can you guys hear all the way in the back?
Oh, I apologize. Before I ask my question, I'm just going to do what Kelsey did and tell you a little bit about myself. Wanya Smith. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. Small neighborhood called Fraser, very violent, and I've seen a lot of things that, children shouldn't see at a young age. So I just use that as the motivation and the drive to make sure I'm doing what I'm doing to help children that were at my age and even older than me get to a better place, and let them know just because you started here, you won't have to finish here.
Exactly.
So, my question is, what are some examples of what the federal government can do to help communities prevent violence? And what are the ways that communities need to step up to take actions at the local level?
It's a really good question, and you should also add, you have 10 siblings, or are there 10 of you total?
It's 10 of us total.
10 total, and one is right in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a younger brother who looks up to him like a dad. So not only is he talking the talk, but he's walking the walk, beginning with his own family. So he's a terrific role model.
Thank you.
So I think it takes all of us. It takes the federal government and the state government and the local government. It takes community leaders, and that can be everyone from a block club leader to a local alderman to faith leaders. It takes businesses providing summer job opportunities. It takes family, it takes parents, and if the parents aren't there, it takes uncles and aunts and grandmothers. And I was a single mom, but I had 2 parents who lived a block from me, and I am telling you, I had the wherewithal to afford child support, but there were many a days where I felt like I was holding on by my fingertips. And if it hadn't been for my parents and my grandmother and my friends down the street, because something always comes up, and if you don't have, again, parents need a safety net as much as anybody, and particularly single moms or single dads, because everything is on you. And so you need to be able to spread that out a little bit. And so the answer, I think, is it takes all of the above. And it really takes the folks of us who are in government to listen. And I had a great time listening to these two young women, a young man, and then another young man, a young woman, just explaining to me what more we could do. And oftentimes it boils down to resources. Chelsea was talking about these young women that she's trying to help, but she's doing it without any compensation, just because she believes in her city of Baltimore, and she's serving as a publicly appointed official, but without compensation. And so who's going to help her, and who's going to buy the wonderful goodies that she buys for the young girls that she's mentoring? That shouldn't fall on her to do. And so I think that in this country that we live in, that is the wealthiest country in the developed world, why are we not doing more to help support everybody in the community that is trying to give those young people a fair shot. So I think it's a I mean, you both talked about coming from neighborhoods that were tough, and you're superstars, but I know you know that there are many people in your community who, for a whole range of reasons, aren't sitting up on this stage. And what we want to ensure is that everyone you grew up with can be right here with us.
So we are in Baltimore. Just this past evening, there was a visual held for someone in the community that tried to do different things to help young people in the community. And it seems that there are some simple investments and partnerships that could make all of us a lot better off and help stem the violence, from early childhood education to summer job opportunities to strengthening relationships between police and communities that they serve. How can we get our state, local, and federal leaders to help make those commitments?
Well, that's exactly what our job should be. And a year and a half ago, you may remember that the president created a task force on 21st century policing. And it came out of some of the really unbelievably sad examples that we had right there on video cameras of what happens when there is a breakdown in trust. And so the president's goal was to say, let's get everybody together. Let's get law enforcement, who the vast majority who go out every day and they try to protect their communities, and they deserve to come home as well. Let's have faith leaders. Let's have community leaders. Let's have youth leaders. We had a terrific young woman, Brittany Packer, who was one of the demonstrators in Ferguson, who agreed to join the task force to make sure that her voice was heard. Business leaders, whole range of experts, academics who've studied police violence and violence and this breakdown of trust in communities. And the task force came up with a series of recommendations, and it's everything from the most basic, ensuring that our police are adequately trained. You know, we send these young women and men out on the streets, and oftentimes their local municipalities haven't had the resources to devote to training them adequately. And we're sending them in harm's way, and they don't have the skills on how to de-escalate a crisis, and so things escalate. And that takes maturity, it takes experience, it takes practice, it takes discipline and kind of that inner strength, because when situations get volatile and you have to make a snap judgment, you need to know how to do that. And so training is important. Police cameras, you're seeing around the country, there are police forces that are now investing in having body cameras so that it isn't he said, she said, you have a record of it. And then there's a whole host of challenges to how do you make sure that they're used appropriately so you don't violate people's right to privacy, but yet you capture important information that protects both the police and the community. So there are a whole range of ways in which we can work together, but mostly I would say it depends on a relationship. The police and the communities in which they serve and work have to have individual, personal relationships. There has to be trust, and trust isn't anything you can legislate from government. It isn't anything that you can just accomplish by pouring resources in. It has to be, you know, you and me sitting down and me knowing I can trust you and you knowing you can trust me. And we are sure that if we can build that trust, the rest will follow. Our streets will be safer, our communities will be safer, the police will be safer, and we'll start to develop these healthy communities. And so maybe because I started my career in public service on the ground working for Mayor of Chicago, I think everything's local. I think it all starts in the community, and that it is our responsibility as public officials to help you do what you want to do to strengthen your community. And every community is different, and we should be flexible enough to tailor what we're doing to meet your needs and meet your needs and meet your needs. That's mine.
As I was stating earlier about the things that I've seen and endured when I was a child, one of those things happened to be a near-death experience to gun violence. So my question is, it seems that, when it comes to policies to prevent gun violence, it feels like there's a disconnect between advocates from the community that have been affected by it and gun right advocates who are immediately worried about losing their rights. It seems like we often talk past each other. how have you seen policymakers build common ground and build the kind of coalitions behind measures that can save lives?
This is such a good question. And you said it just right. There is this painful disconnect between the families of victims of gun violence and the communities that have been ravaged by it, and the advocates who strongly believe in the Second Amendment. And my view is that it isn't an either or, it should be a both and. We should be able to fully respect the Second Amendment, allow law-abiding citizens to have guns, to use them for recreation and hunting and self-defense, but we should also try to keep guns out of the hands of people who will either harm themselves or others. We lose 30,000 people a year in our country to gun violence. Two-thirds of them, 30,000, two-thirds of them commit suicide. I know, I was surprised too. You said, whoa, over here. I was very surprised when I learned the proportion that was suicide. And so we know to those victims, and then many, many other who are severely hurt by gun violence and spend their lives trying to heal the wounds, both the physical and the mental wounds from the trauma, as well as those of their family members. So given that is an outrageous statistic, and given that the media focuses on mass shootings, such as the horrendous act we just recently saw in Orlando, but every single day on the streets of my hometown of Chicago and many of your hometowns, certainly in Baltimore, people die from gun violence, and it doesn't make it onto the media, but believe me, and the families of those who've been affected, it certainly feels like a mass shooting as well. And so the question is, what can we do to try to bridge that gap? And one of the challenges is the fact that, frankly, you have special interest groups, such as the National Rifle Association, the NRA, that is so concerned with sweeping changes that might impinge on the Second Amendment, that they don't want to see any changes. And so my view is, don't be afraid of the sweeping changes. Come to the table and work with us on pragmatic changes. So for example, I don't think it's a threat to the Second Amendment to say everyone who purchases a gun should go through a background check if it's being sold to them by someone who's in the business of selling guns. And right now, we were hoping for legislation that would say that no matter where you sell the gun, if you're in the business of selling guns, you should get a license. You're selling a lethal weapon, you should get a license, and you should sell it only to people who pass a background check. We also believe, and this is being debated on the Hill, many of you may have seen last week, where Congressman John Lewis and his colleagues in the Democratic side of the House, just out of sheer frustration said, look, we're going to take to the floor, and they spent the night trying to get the attention of their colleagues on the Republican side to say, if you were on a no-fly list, which means that we can prevent you from getting on an airplane, you probably shouldn't be able to buy a gun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
For years, we had an assault weapons ban, and that's not to say that the vast majority of people are shot with assault weapons. Many of them are shot with handguns, but we know that assault weapons can do a huge amount of damage in a short period of time. And so though it may be fun to go out to a rifle range and shoot with an assault weapon, when you consider the damage that it does, should we really have assault weapons on the streets? I don't think so. And so what we're saying is, let's look at the pragmatic steps that we could take that do not infringe on the Second Amendment. I mean, I often say, look, we have a First Amendment right to freedom of speech, but you can't go into a crowded theater and cry fire, because we've decided the damage you can do by that is greater than the right to freedom of speech. And I think the same thing applies here. But as the president, to answer your question more fully, what the president has said clearly is that it's going to take the American people. It's going to take their voices, because certainly he has been speaking about this for as long as he's been in office, and he has been to so many so many memorial services for people who have needlessly died as a result of gun violence, and he knows, as I said, that it's happening all over our country. And until the American people stand up and say, we want our voices to be heard, and that they are going to care about this issue as much as the NRA cares about this issue, we're not going to see fundamental change. So that's what it's going to take, everybody. You.
Thank you for the answer.
Similar to how I grew up in a single parent household, you spoke so movingly about both the challenges of being a single mother and how much you benefited from having both your parents who could help you along the way with your daughter. Could you talk a little bit about the challenges one faces as a single parent and how we can build a support system for parents who don't naturally have them?
Yes, and I think, as I say right up front, I was one of the lucky ones because I had an extended family. I had my parents, I had an extended family, I had friends in the neighborhood. I had the same caregiver who started with me when my daughter was 3 months old, and she stayed until my daughter graduated from high school. So I had incredible continuity of care. And I know so many moms, because I talk to them all the time, who don't have that. And if you are leaving your children in a circumstance where you don't feel that they are well cared for or safe, it is impossible for you to do what you need to do to provide for that young person. And so I think it's any moms and dads in the room, I'm right. We worry about children all the time. Even when they're grown, you worry about them. And so we need to provide affordable child care, stable, affordable, quality child care for every child. Something like 2/3 of our states, it's more expensive to get child care than to go to an in-state college. Well, that's dramatic. And so the president has been proposing tax credits, $3,000 tax credit to help folks with child care, because that's your immediate. And then you've got to be able to make sure that you can get a job where you can take care of your baby. We've been calling for raising the minimum wage now for years. Congress has failed to act, but we've been heartened to see something like 48 states have raised the minimum wage, and cities and counties around the country as well. You should not have to raise your children in poverty if you work full-time in this country.
Yeah.
Those are some of the steps that we have to take. And I say also, and I know it's obvious to you all, but if my child is hungry, if my child is going to school scared, if my child is not sure whether they can play in a park in front of their home, then that should be a concern to you, even if your child is okay. Right? I mean, they're all our children.
So my last question is, what advice would you give to young people seeking to do better as leaders in their communities?
Well, look up to the two of you, first of all.
Thank you.
I mean, they have to believe in themselves, and as I said earlier, they need the adults in their community to accept responsibility for them. And again, if the parents aren't able to take care of their children or don't choose to take care of their children or aren't in the circumstances where they can because they're working 3 jobs trying to just put a roof over their head, everybody else has to pitch in. And it is easy to do. Every community has houses of worship. They have business people who are small businesses located in the community that want to help out. And I think part of what we all have to do is just take a hard look at our own lives and say, what could I do better? What could I do? Could I provide one more summer job? I know I've got 5, but could I add on one more child? Could I do mentoring after school? Those hours after school are so precarious. And in Chicago, we have this terrific program called After School Matters. And it's just what it means, After School Matters. And you need to provide enriching opportunities where children can learn about each other in a diverse culture. You need to ensure that they're having a safe, quiet place where they can do their homework and get tutoring if they need tutoring, and whatever they need during those after-school hours. And again, every single individual in this room, and those of you watching online, you can do a little bit more than you're doing today, and many of you could do much more than you're doing today, so do it today.
So my last question, what is it like working in the White House, and how can we be you?
It's very cool. I'm not going to lie to you. It's like the coolest thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. And I think about this a lot now that I'm at the stage I am in my career, is advice that I would give young people. And first of all, just work really, really hard, because you have no idea who's watching you. Build relationships with each other. I always tell the interns at the White House, I know you all are trying to get to know us, your managers and the senior staff, but the future president is amongst you. So get to know each other and be good to each other. Be supportive of one another. I met the president and first lady 25 years ago, and I was working for Mayor Daley. I was his deputy chief of staff in Chicago, and I was looking to recruit people to come and work in the mayor's office, and someone sent me Michelle Robinson's resume, and across the top it said, brilliant young lawyer, but doesn't want to be at a large law firm. And I had been in a large law firm, so I knew what she meant by that. And it's what drew me to government. And so I met her and loved her and offered her a job, and her fiance wasn't so hot on the idea, and so I know, I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Why wouldn't you think it's great for her to come work with me? And so she said, would you mind having dinner with us so we could talk about this? And I did, and I think about the relationship I forged with them before they were married, before he entered politics, before they had children, 25 years ago this month, and those relationships matter. That one in particular really matters. So, and then we have a little time left because nobody said we have to stop. We do? How much time? Because I have a quick question for these two as well. The other thing is that you do have to dream big. And I think we are often victims, not only do we need adults in our life to encourage us, but we have to encourage ourselves. And we have to believe in ourselves, and we have to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone. We got to try to do things that we think we might fail and not be afraid of failure. And that's a lesson I really learned from the president. After he lost his race for Congress when he ran against Bobby Rush, I was actually afraid for him to run for the Senate. I was afraid if he failed, he would lose his opportunity to be in politics, which was something I knew he loved dearly. And he said to me, well, what are you afraid of if I'm not afraid? If I'm willing to run the risk of losing another race, then believe in me, and I'm prepared to take that risk, take it with me. And I think that's a message that I've carried with me all the time. First of all, he won the second race, so that's good evidence that it worked out. Just because you lose once doesn't mean you lose twice, and he won a bigger office. But you just have to be resilient. And it's not what happens to you, as my mother often says, it's what you do about it. Mm-hmm. And you guys have had experiences already at your young age that is really more trauma than anybody should have to have in a lifetime. But look at what you're doing. Yes. Look at the fact that you're here. So I'll tell you, you're my beacon of hope. And I know you're the beacon of hope to many, just from the short conversation we had, to the many people who you've touched already. So I have a quick question for both of you, because I'm here and because nobody really is going to come up and stop me. Because I think it's important for the audience to hear, given the fact that you described, Wanya, about the things that you've seen that were really traumatic, that you know had a traumatic effect on you as a young person. And Kelsey, you talked about being sexually assaulted, being raped. Could you give our audience and those who are listening just a sense as to how you overcame, how you didn't give in, why you didn't succumb? What makes you different? And I think that's advice everybody would want to hear.
Well, I would say for me, going through all the things that I went through at a young age, it motivated me to want to do better. Like I said in my presentation yesterday, there were a lot of odds against me and a lot of statistics told to me at a young age that I wasn't going to do this, I wasn't going to do that. And I made sure that I remember those things so I can go back and tell them, I did what you said I couldn't do. And being able to say I beat the odds means a lot to me. And I want everyone after me to beat the odds. because once you beat the odds, it gives you that self-confidence and that self-motivation to help someone else beat the odds. And I just want their repetition to continue. That's why I'm starting at home with my brother and my nephew, so they can go to their peers younger than them and just keep the cycle going. And that way we'll have a lot of productive people, going out into the world eventually.
Right? And then one more quick thing before we move to Kelsey. We all know you want to teach third grade. Why?
I want to teach third grade because I know for me in middle school and high school, I had the mindset that I'm grown. You can't really tell me what to do. And that was the time that teachers tried to, tell you to do this and do that. But by that time, it's too late. So if you start while they're young, then they have all this time to develop and learn from you the right things to do. So when they get to middle school and high school, they won't have the mindset that I'm grown. They're going to have the mindset that, well, I've been getting taught the right thing to do my whole life, so it must be the right thing to do.
So for me, it's a little different. I had, growing up, high expectations of you're going to do good, you're going to be fine, you're great. But I had a lot of personal issues that I struggled with, from my mom losing our house and then our car being repossessed, and then on top of that, Cherry was being raped. So I had a lot of internal issues that I wouldn't share. And from just going through that process, being numb for about 3-4 years, and just feeling like I never could get past that, I had to go to therapy, and I had to realize that it's got to be something better. I have to change my mind, and I have to really start looking and encouraging myself, and saying that I love me, I am special, and I know God loves me. And just getting that affirmation that besides what everybody see on the outside, these good grades mean nothing if you can't have mental stability and can't really see past the day. So even though on the outside, I was great, like, this is a great child, we don't even need to look at her. You have no problems. I was number 1 in my middle school, and no one knew what was really going on. And it's totally different when you share and talk through your experiences. Even now, even previously talking, it's constantly healing. Just seeing how far I came.
How about you too? You're great. Thank you.
Thank you.